In the small, fog-wrapped town of Alder, Glen, where the hills tangled with whispering woods, life moved to a quiet rhythm. Here, Lina, the baker's daughter, had lived all her life, her roots dug deep into its cobblestone streets. Her days followed a pattern as predictable as the sunrise, filled with the scent of fresh bread and old songs hummed under her breath. She was known for her quiet strength, a constant in the lives of her neighbors. Her world was Alder Glen, its familiar routines her comfort, its quiet ways her own. Alex, however, was the outsider, a nomad drifting into town one autumn, with nothing but a duffel bag and a restless heart. The orphaned son of travelers, he rented a tiny room above the florist's shop and spent his days sorting letters at the post office. His quiet demeanor often invited curious glances, but he rarely stayed still long enough for anyone to ask. It was on a rainy Thursday when their paths first crossed, quite literally. Lina knelt to help him pick up the soaked envelopes. Their fingers brushing over a letter addressed to no one in particular. Their eyes met, and the warm laugh that followed took them both by surprise. It was small, the exchange, but it stitched something invisible between them. Time didn't rush them toward anything grand. It unfolded gently, as seasons do. They shared coffee over lazy mornings. They sat side by side at the Old Town Cinema, smiling at the dated reels. They walked through the woods on dusky afternoons, speaking of everything and sometimes nothing. Their differences became their glue. Lina's grounded nature gave Alex something to hold on to, and Alex's wanderlust pulled Lina's gaze beyond the familiar hills. They argued, fiercely at times, about whether love meant staying or moving, about whether Alder Glen was a tether or a treasure. But somehow, even when frustration hurled words into the starlit nights, they always found their way back to each other. When Lina's father fell ill, their bond was tested. The bakery struggled. Lina insisted she could bear the weight alone, but Alex stayed anyway, helping to cook, clean, and hold her through long nights. When her father passed, grief consumed her like a flood. But Alex was there, catching the broken pieces of Lina, helping her rebuild. One summer evening, Alex came home holding an envelope with trembling hands. A city job offer, art director for a rising magazine. The kind of opportunity he had dreamed of.
Will you come with me?
Lina hesitated, her entire life etched into the bones of Alder Glen. But when she looked into Alex's eyes, filled with both longing and fear, she saw her future staring back at her.
Yes.
They packed their lives into 2 suitcases and left the only place Lina had ever called home. The city greeted them with chaos and wonder. Lina struggled with the noise, the anonymity, the way the concrete seemed to swallow the sky. But Alex was her anchor now. Slowly, they created something theirs. She opened a humble cafe on a quiet street corner where strangers came to sip coffee and share stories. They adopted a stray cat. Laughter would echo softly in the rattling 5th-floor apartment as they danced to old tunes humming from a battered radio. But the road sometimes curved sharply. It was on their anniversary, a stormy autumn night, when Alex pressed Lina to take the drive back to Alder Glen, just for the weekend. Nostalgia wrapped around them as they climbed into the old white sedan, windows fogging as rain blurred the hills. Lina rested her head on Alex's shoulder, half asleep as the radio hummed one of her father's old songs. The curve came too fast. Sound, loud tire screech.
Lina!
Sound, followed by a sudden, impactful sound of a car crash, then immediate, heavy silence. Later, witnesses would say it was the brakes, but Lina remembered none of it, just the moment before. The sound of Alex calling her name, his hand reaching for hers like a lifeline. And then silence. When she woke, 3 days had passed. The hospital was a pale blur of white walls and humming machines. Her leg was broken, ribs bruised, but her soul fractured in ways that could never mend. Alex was gone. The days that followed were dreamless but full. She returned to their apartment, now a cavern of silence. The cat waited by the door as if Alex might walk through it any moment. The plants wilted quicker than she could water them. Life moved forward regardless, mercilessly. Lina survived, though not because she wanted to. She kept the cafe running, played their songs in the quiet mornings, and brought flowers to Alder Glen every year, leaving them at the curve in the road, where the trees bent as though mourning him. One evening, years later, she found Alex's old notebook tucked behind a shelf. His sketches, faces of strangers, mornings steeped in sunlight, the cat sprawled on sill beams. The final page was not a drawing, but a note, scribbled, unfinished. No matter where we go, if we're together, it's home. She pressed it to her chest and wept, not like the first days of raw grief, but quieter, like the morning of something sacred, something that settles deep in the bones. Each year, Lina walked the streets of Alder Glen alone, not to mourn, but to remember. She paused by the bakery, smiling at the smell of bread mixing with memory. She sat by the bend in the road, where a bench had appeared, and whispered softly into the wind.
You told me to keep going, and I did, but you're still everywhere.
Time has a way of softening edges, but some bonds stretch across it. And so Lina carried him, always, in the quiet moments and well-worn pages. Love is not always forever, but hers hummed across the years, like the echo of his voice calling her name. And she was still there, just a little farther down the road,